Hi everybody, I am Gavin Erb and I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the president and vice president roles for your club or your chapter meetings when you run that in your position. So a little background about me is I am going to be a 10-year 4-H member in Swine Club this year, did 6 years in Beef Club. I've been an active member in the 4-H club for the last 2 years as the president and a former FFA president in my chapter at my high school that I attend. Alrighty, so some of the duties that a president and vice president should kind of possess when they hold these positions. First off, with the president, you're working closely with the vice president and your club officers and other club leaders, getting the materials together, planning out meetings, that type of thing. And a big thing to be prepared for in this is to look through the material before the meeting, have an idea of what you're going to say, and not just showing up at the meeting and just looking at the material for the first time and kind of just winging it and not really knowing where you're going to take the program or what you're going to kind of talk about. And then running 4-H meetings. When you go into these, you need to be able to have a professional attitude about all of this. Leave everything else at the door, walk in with a smiling face, and take the reins, lead the meeting, have an idea of, ask people to do the pledges before the meeting so you aren't scrambling around, and making sure that everyone has a role if there's multiple roles to be had at a meeting. And then if you have when also running the meeting, preferably follow parley procedure, depending on what you are going to talk about at the meeting. If someone has approving the minutes, and there's many other examples of making sure you follow the procedure that you can refer back to in the handbook. And so with the vice president, you're working very closely with the president and the other club leaders as well, getting the agenda kind of worked out and hammered out before the year kind of kicks off with meetings. You take the place of the president if they're not at the meetings, so being able to communicate effectively with younger 4-H members all the way up until 10-year members, and along as with their parents as well. And so communicating is a vital role for either one of these positions. And you're the chairman of the committees, in the program committee, especially when you're like the safety committee, and there's many other committees that you would be in charge of and oversee, and making sure that they have what they need for material wise to benefit the club. And so back with some more future tips for the vice president. They work very closely with the president, so you need to have that good communication relationship with them. Whether that's texting, social media these days is endless in ways to communicate, but they are key to planning out everything at the beginning of the year, making sure that you have the necessary things and your agenda planned out at the beginning, so you're not scrambling around last minute to get an idea or something you want to do at a meeting. For example, for the Swine Club, we go through at the beginning of every year, meet with our leaders and our officers and kind of plan out what we'd like to talk about throughout the year, whether it changes from the previous year to this year. We decide all of that, what we feel is important. So it's important for the vice president to take notes of all of that so we have an idea of what we're talking about throughout the year leading up to the fair. And being prepared to run the meeting is also a very key thing. You step in the absence of the president, so you need to be comfortable in front of crowds, relaying information to younger members or older 4-H members and their parents as well. And so having a good communicating skill with that is also very important. So I'd like to kind of expand on the parley procedure that many clubs should implement into their meetings to make it more of an official business meeting. It's proven that it runs meetings smoother, it comes across more professionally, and it can also just add more discussion and bring up good topics that normally wouldn't be brought up if you weren't using parley procedure. So for example, using a spaghetti fundraiser for your club, someone from the crowd would have to stand, make a motion to want to do the spaghetti fundraiser for the club to raise money and then someone after that would take the floor and second that to move it on to further discussion. And then in the discussion, it kind of expands to where the discussion can go whether 1 to 2 comments from other individuals, or it can go on for many comments or an hour. It depends on when the president wants to be done having the discussion. They have that authority to say, we are done having discussion, let's move to vote. And when you get to vote on that, it's majority rules for this kind of thing, whether you want to have the spaghetti fundraiser or not. So over half the members have to either vote yes or no, and then that decides whether it would go into effect or not. And so if it would pass, for example, the president is in charge of making sure that the motion gets set into stone after it passes and makes it through. They're the ones that kind of set up everything and the time and making sure the steps are getting made to progress towards the fundraiser and benefiting the club. Alrighty, thank you guys for listening to me today. If you have any other questions, get a hold of the extension office, check out the links below this video. I hope it was helpful and hope the rest of your year in 4-H is great.